Welcome to the SciShow Talk Show. It's that day on SciShow where we talk to interesting people about interesting stuff. Today, the interesting person is Sharman Apt Russell, who is a nature writer, has been writing books for a long time, and just won the John Burroughs Award for, what is that award for?
Well, they call it Distinguished Nature Writing.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Because it's a award that started in 1926, so it's a little stuffy.
Old school.
Yeah, old school.
So you're now distinguished. It happened. Congratulations.
That's right. It was bestowed on me. I'm really grateful. Thank you.
You are a writer and professor?
Yep. I'm a professor of writing. I mean, I'm a long-term writer and teacher of writing. But I write about nature. I write about science. I really write about anything that interests me. That tends to be nature and science.
I have become kind of a professional writer in my life now, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
And I also am basically, I haven't taken a science course in a long, long time.
Yeah.
I haven't practiced science in a long, long time, but it's very cool that you have found ways to mix those things.
Yeah.
And this book is about, it's called Diary of the Citizen Scientist.
Right,
and
right.
It's about your work as a citizen scientist and sort of general work as a citizen scientist.
Right, it's about it's about my work, and it's also an overview of the field.
Yeah.
You know, because it's relatively new, and I think it's really exciting, and so I wanted to give the breadth and depth of the field right now. But I also wanted to talk about my project and how it got me outside more, and how it got me more engaged, and how it entered into my life in a wonderful way.
Yeah. So when did that start for you?
Well, I started doing citizen science, over a decade ago, banding birds, working with Cornell Lab of Ornithology, different national and state programs. But for this project, I wanted to go more vertical. I mean, I really wanted to go a little bit in depth. So I emailed an entomologist who's a big advocate of citizen science. And I said, well, what would you study? What could I start looking at personally? So he emailed me within 15 nanoseconds. And he said, I want you to go do this and this and this and this. So he just kind of set me off on this path of pursuing the particular life history of a tiger beetle in New Mexico.
So he had a specific beetle in mind that was poorly studied?
Yes, absolutely. So my entomologist mentor, is the co-author of a field guide to tiger beetles of the United States and Canada.
How many are there lots of different types of tiger beetles? You're going to have to catch me up on
2,600 species.
Oh, okay.
Right, and under the western red-bellied tiger beetle is the phrase larval biology unknown.
Oh.
And that's what he wanted me to fill in. I mean, I was just one of his 1,000 grad students that he has out in the world doing this work for him. So he said, go find this beetle, go raise it up, go find out what the larvae look like, go find out where the females go to lay their eggs, go find out anything you can. Because
so when you say you were a student,
yeah,
what do you mean
putting
by,
quotes around it.
This?
It's just that in the world of citizen science, scientists are beginning to see that they have this huge resource of people out there. They're interested, they're engaged, they're often educated, they're healthy, and they're willing to go out and act in the service of that particular scientist research project. So suddenly they do have 1,000 graduate students out there in the country collecting data.
Did he know that you were a nature writer, or did he think you were just some person?
Yes, yes.
Would it be as easy for just someone else to email someone and be like, hey, I want to do research for you. Tell me what to do.
It's one would think no, but I'm going to say yes. Not as easy, obviously. But first, there are lots of constructed, organized projects in which you already do that. So a scientist who wants to get a lot of information about monarch migration, or about how to classify certain galaxies, or about wolverines here in Montana, they're going to set up a citizen science project, and then they're going to set up a website, and so you can enter it through that. But it's surprising how scientists love talking about their work, and citizen science is kind of it's cut through some of the barriers. They're beginning to see that the amateur out there, can really help them a lot, especially if they have 100 of them.
Right.
So I think odds are, if you contact a scientist and you are credible and you have an expertise to offer, even if it's just, I've got a really good field guide, I can go into the bitter roots and I can look for this plant that you're looking for. You're going to get a surprisingly warm welcome. 75% of the time. Not everyone.
So send 4 emails.
Exactly. Yeah.
So take me through some of your experience with this particular tiger beetle.
Yeah. A tiger beetle, they're everywhere. They're here. They're in all ecosystems. They're very small. You hardly even know they're there. They're like little skitters around the ground. They're beautifully colored, so they're very pretty, and they're fierce. Tiger beetle is the fastest insect in the world. Australian one can go 5 miles an hour. They have these huge mandibles, and they have these huge eyes, and they see their prey, and they run after their prey, and they grab them, and then they drench them in these digestive juices that turns the victim into this kind of puree.
It was all reminding me of a tiger until
that point. Oh, it is, exactly.
Well, so that's like excreting digestive juices.
No, they drench them, and then they have this mouth part, and they suck up the puree, and so that's how they live their lives. Just ferocious predators. So what's interesting about the tiger beetle is that the larva, and then they lay their eggs, and these tiny larvae immediately dig a little burrow. And the larvae also have these mandibles. They have these heavy heads, and they're also completely predaceous. And they come to the top of their burrow, and they just kind of wait there. They have a little hook in the back of their little grub bodies that anchor them into the tunnel. And then they kind of lunge out at any prey that comes by. So they're like these B-movie monsters lunging out.
So you grew some of these things larvae?
Yes, that's exactly. Yeah, I did. I grew their larvae because you have first.
You just like put a few of a male and a female in a tank and cross your fingers.
Well, first you have to go catch them. So this is a type A high energy beetle. I mean, it's really hard to catch them. You have to have this kind of Tai Chi thing, and you kind of creep, and you get as close as you can. And then you have to lunge and jump and throw your net right down. And then they're so small, they escape out the net. And I'm not very good at any of that. It's like I was bad at team sports. I was bad at catching tiger beetles. But, you learn. So a couple hours on the riverbank, there's 1,000 tiger beetles, so I would end up getting about 10 in a couple hours.
Yeah.
You take them home, put them in your terrarium, and I was probably, there's so many obscure insects, you can be the first to do anything. I was actually inspired by this entomologist that said, you could spend a week studying an obscure insect, and you would then know more than anyone else on the planet. And that's true. That's more than true. It took me a year because I'm a slow learner. But anyone else could probably take a week. So you have the tiger beetle and you put them in the terrarium, and then they mate. And you don't have to do any encouragement for that. Slay nice music, soft lice, nothing. It's like they are ready to go. They love doing that. They love mating. So they're mating. And then the females oviposited, laid her eggs. And that was the first time someone had gotten that to happen. I think this was beginner's luck, for this species. And then the larva burrow down, and then the kind of icky part is you have to feed your larva.
Oh, that doesn't sound so icky.
Well, you have to cut up mini mealworms. You have to order mini mealworms, and then they're too big for the larva because the larvae are so small. So you have to kind of cut them up and put them on a little forceps and put them in the little hole, and the larvae are going, yay, yay, and they're lunging out and they're grabbing their bit of mini mealworm. And then they get bigger. Tiger beetles have 3 instars, just like,
the larva or the beetles?
The larva. Just like caterpillars and other larvae, they go through 3 times. So they eat and eat and eat. They molt, bigger size. They enlarge their tunnel. And you wait for them to do that 3 times, and then they, form the pupa, and out of that, the adult emerges. So, but
you did the whole thing.
I did. Yeah.
It's remarkable that you can add a new thing to humanity's body of knowledge of the world.
It is. It is.
It's also just like everybody has a hobby.
Yes. Right.
And what a great hobby to have.
It is, absolutely.
What do you think of the sort of state of citizen science in general? We talk about it more and more on SciShow. There's always an interesting citizen science project going on, and things that you can get involved in without even leaving your house.
Right.
But also like, you know, bird surveys that have been going on for decades.
Absolutely. I'm really a cheerleader. I really think it's amazing. And the thing is, it is relatively new. You know, one of the biggest citizen science projects is Galaxy Zoo. They have, you know, close to 1 million people have participated in this online program helping catalog galaxies, which has resulted in some real science because they give the astronomers the sample sizes they need. That just started in 2007. I don't think we even can realize how young citizen science is. You know, Cornell Lab, you know, which you mentioned is, you know, 200,000 volunteers. It hasn't been around that long. So I know citizen science projects are going to proliferate. I know there's a lot of them in every town I go to. What I think I'm most excited about is how it segues into environmental activism. A lot of people are documenting climate change. They're going out and looking when plants are flowering, when plants are fruiting, when insects are emerging, when the birds are coming. They're starting to see the effects of climate change. There's a lot of programs where you document invasive species, a lot of programs where you do water monitoring and air monitoring. So it's creating this whole, you know, growing population of people who are really aware of the natural world and are really aware of changes. And the difference is they're not scientists, they're citizen scientists. So we are much more willing to go to the table of public policy and say, oh, I worked so hard last week and I got all this data. Now what are you going to do with it? You know, we kind of demand more action based on our research, on our data, on our information. Because we're citizens too. And I don't mean citizens of the country, citizens of a place, citizens of a community, you know, citizens of this project we got involved in. So scientists don't tend to get very political.
It can be like a cultural problem. It can be a problem for their work.
Yeah,
it can
right.
be, you know, like
It
depending
can.
on where their funding comes from, and like you sort of want to stay apolitical. You want to,
Exactly.
you want to be,
And I'm not funded by NASA.
Right.
Hey, I mean, NASA's accountable to me. NASA does wonderful citizen science projects. You know, I like NASA.
What do you think it is that makes people, like, drives people to get out there and do this?
Well, there's a lot of, I became a dentist, but I really loved botany in high school. You know, I made my money as an accountant, but boy, astronomy is something. So there's a lot of kind of this transformation or a new career that can happen at any time in your life. So in a way, I just think it's the human beings are, you know, we're Renaissance. You know, we're multiple things, and in a way, making money in this society has kind of put us in a box, like you're this, you're this, you're this, you're this. But we're actually a lot of things. Citizen science lets you go be a lepidopterist, or go be a botanist, or go be a person, an archaeologist, and kind of at any time in your life. So I just think we're naturally curious and kind of creative and in love with the world around us, and we need more ways to engage in that.
That was great. Let's have a visit. Do you want to have a visit?
Yes, sure.
Okay. We're going to have Jessi come in with some kind of animal.
Okay, great.
It's been kept a secret from both of us.
All right. Yes, right. Good.
Hey, I love it how you just appear out of nowhere.
Can I have like a...
You're like a genie. So you brought us a coconut.
Coconut. It looks kind of like a tortoise, doesn't it?
It's not.
With a little patty cake.
So I assume there's something inside the coconut.
There
and
is.
Probably something a little creepy. Usually there's something a little creepy inside of a coconut. That's my experience.
If I usually don't have it out,
Yeah.
I'm going to do like a reveal. Yeah. So she's under here. She's really comfortable. She likes kind of burrowing in there.
Oh, you're so big.
A spider. This is Fluffy. Fluffy is, do you know what kind of spider she is?
A tarantula?
Yep. She is a Chilean rose tarantula. Come here, pretty girl.
What do you know about their life cycle? How do they mate and
I know
larva
lots about
and-
it. Lots about it. But did you notice how I picked her up?
From the side?
From the side, and very gently. I just slid my hand right underneath her. I didn't try and grab her and pick her up. I'm not going to pet her. We're not going to touch her. We're just going to gently be the ground underneath her. So I like the tiger beetle because they're very similar to tarantulas in how they eat. These guys also...
Just vomit up digestive enzymes.
Yeah, here's my stomach in you. Do all the work. And then they have a sucking mechanism, so then they expand their stomach on the inside and suck up all the juices, and then they digest it. That is how they don't really have chewing mouth parts at all. They have, of course, the 8 legs they have there, and then they have these 2. So a lot of times people are looking at them and they're like, oh, wait, they have 10 legs. They don't. These 2 in the front, they're called pedipalps.
Are you sure? They look like legs.
I am sure, Hank. Those are the pedipalps are really neat because they are kind of like, I guess you would say, their hands. They use those to like feel and move around food and do that sort of thing. And then if you look right in the front of their face there, you see 2 more kind of appendage type things.
Yep.
Those are their fangs. That's where their fangs are. See those 2?
They're like hairy fangs?
Okay. Yeah, they're covered all in this hair. Yeah.
Which
so
is not
underneath
hair, 'cause
there,
they're not mammals.
exactly. So it's not hair. It's actually chitin. So it's made up of a specialized protein, and that makes up their entire exoskeleton. And so that's kind of what identifies a tarantula as a tarantula. Is they have all this hair on them, and they have specialized hair right here on their abdomen. So they're made. Tarantulas, all spiders are made up of 2 pieces, the cephalothorax and the abdomen. But right there, that abdomen has urticating. Now I say urticating. Some people say urticating, but I say urticating. They have urticating hairs, and those hairs back there are actually used as a defense mechanism.
So they're like stabby, like cactus
So
thorns?
if you were to touch them, they would come off onto your skin. But so like porcupine, right? You touch porcupine, it'll come off. But unlike porcupine, these guys can actually shoot their bristles. And so you can say urticating hairs or urticating bristles because they're not real hair, they're actually bristles. And so they'll take their back legs, they'll turn around if they're really mad at you, or trying to just defend themselves.
So point it towards him.
Yeah, right there. They'll just go whack, 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 like it's called kicking. It's called kicking. Yeah, they'll kick their bristles, or they'll also just kind of rub it and it'll mist around in the air.
Why is the abdomen so big and juicy, looking like a delicious kiwi fruit?
Kiwi fruit. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's huge because she's a female.
Okay.
And so females are going to have much larger abdomens than the males. So the males are going to have to be quicker, and they don't live as long. And there's the same reason why they don't live as long, and they have to be quicker is because the females often will eat them during the mating process. But these guys have to have a big abdomen so that they can store all of the eggs inside there. Okay. So if she were to be upset, would you like to hold her? I was going to tell you what you would. Some people are very nervous around spiders, but I find it easier to be around an animal when I know when they're communicating, when they're upset. So I know if I'm making them mad. So she's a nice flat hand. And she'll go right onto your hand there.
Oh, no.
And she can sense the difference in temperature, so she's like, wait, that's new ground.
Oh, you're not that heavy.
Very light.
Yeah.
They can get much bigger than this. Not Chilean rose tarantulas, but
tarantulas.
Yeah, in general. So if she were upset, she would do a couple things. One, you might see her abdomen actually quivering, not like moving with my hand. So she might quiver a little bit, and then she would rise up her pedipalps and her first set of legs there, and she would be showing off her fangs, and some of them will actually rub their fangs together, going like, hee hee hee, I have terrible venom under here. And that's gonna make them look big and scary. And some of them will slap their front feet down as well, being like, I will bite you if you get closer. And if you keep messing with them, then they'll turn around and they'll kick those hairs off. So the Chilean rose tarantula is a very docile species. They're more they're going to run away from you. They're going to be like, just don't mess with me. I'm going to go the other direction. They're not super aggressive like the Goliath bird-eating tarantula, which is quite aggressive.
Does it actually eat birds?
It can, yes. Man. Yeah, they're huge. They can get 12 inches. What? Yeah.
That's not real.
It's huge.
How do they even...
So this is about the average size for a female Chilean rose. A lot of people keep these guys as pets, and I think it's really interesting. Would you like to try and hold her?
Sure.
I think it's really interesting, the citizen science part, because these guys haven't been very widely studied in the wild. They are basically just captured and taken into the pet trade or eaten as a delicacy.
Yeah, it's that kiwi fruit on the back there. Looks tasty.
Looks delicious. Oh, and she's opening up. It feels a little weird when it gets up to your wrist. It tickles a little bit
well,
more.
I'm afraid she's going to fall off, but that's
She
probably silly
won't.
because I know she won't. I've seen her Velcro legs.
So you could tip her sideways and she'd hold on really well.
She
But
was
you can see
lovely.
she's moving these things back here. So those are another set of little appendages. Do you know what those are?
What? No. She's got butt legs? They're called butt legs. It's a scientific term.
Official. Do you know what they are?
I don't.
Those are her spinnerets. Does that give you a clue?
Oh, okay,
so
yes,
involved
right.
in the web making.
Yeah, and you can
Yeah.
actually see a little bit of the web stuck to her little hairs there. So those are spinnerets, and they produce the silk, and it's a liquid, and once it hits the air, it becomes solidified into this silky thread-like substance, and then she will make a little web. Now, these guys aren't known for making webs like, Charlotte's web. They actually are very delicate. They can break in between there, so they don't like being up high. They are ground-dwelling or terrestrial tarantulas, and they like burrowing in the wild. So they have been researched enough that we do know some of their natural behavior in the wild. So they like to burrow, and then they'll line their burrow with their web. And they don't really make a big web out front, but they do put like little tendrils of silk out there, kind of like a tripwire. And so if a little insect or small lizard or small mammal walks by there and trips it, they feel it, they'll run out there and they'll inject it with venom, they'll wait for it to be digested, and then they will slurp up the inside of that cricket smoothie.
Yeah.
Well, Fluffy, thank you for coming in today. It was a pleasure to have you. I'm going to put you on my Snapchat right after this is over. Jessi has a YouTube channel where you get to see how she handles having so many different animals in your life.
Yeah. I had a dream last night that we rescued 15 animals in one day. But we don't.
It was an unpleasant experience.
It was a little stressful. Yeah. we have over 80 animals, and it's fun.
Yeah. So you can find out all about that at youtube.com/AnimalWondersMontana. This is Sharman Apt Russell, who wrote the Diary of a Citizen Scientist. It's available now. And thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
And sharing some of your thoughts and perspectives.
Yeah,
It
it's
was really
fun to
great.
be Fluffy. And you too, but
Fluffy steals the show.
Yeah, it does kind of steal the show.
Yeah. And thank you for watching this episode of the SciShow Talk Show. If you want to watch others, there are lots to watch. We have a playlist. And if you want to subscribe, you can do that at youtube.com/SciShow. When a successful drone uncouples from that queen, his penis and some of his abdominal tissues are ripped out of his body, and he dies. His passion...